Hello and welcome to this Astranti video on the top 10 most likely unseen issues for the MCS May and August 2021 exam. Now, in this video we're going to go through 10 unseen issues, but to start with I'm just going to go through the reasons for why I've made these choices and some general tips on how to prepare for the exam. So what is the basis for my choices? Well, the first one is what the focus in the Prescene actually is. Has there been a lot of material that's been mentioned in the Prescene to do with a particular topic? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe there hasn't been something that should be mentioned in the Prescene, and so it might be that that will be some of your unseen material in your actual exam. There is also the degree of importance that is attached to the Prescene by the examiner. So after each exam, an examiner will write up a report talking about what students did or didn't write enough about. So if there are topics that examiners repeatedly say students don't talk about enough, there's a potential likelihood that it may come up again and the examiners will be looking for you to talk about it in your actual exam. Outside of the Prescene, there is of course the strategic importance of particular topics to the company. You could look at the importance of a SWOT analysis. What are its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats? And then what kind of strategic importance do the directors attach to a particular issue? Something that has a genuine impact on the business's strategy and critical success factors is far more likely to come up than something that is completely irrelevant to the company. There is also my own experience. I have written a wide variety of mock exams and seen a wide variety of past papers from CIMA, and so I have a good idea of the kinds of topics that CIMA are likely to test students on. And I also keep an eye out on things that are easy to examine. If a CIMA examiner finds a topic that they can write about that will be easy to assess and assess a wide variety of CIMA topics, then it is more likely that they will write questions on those specific areas. It is not likely that the examiner will try to write a really obscure question that's difficult for them to write and assesses an obscure part of the syllabus. So that's why I've chosen these, but how can you actually use these issues in your exam? First thing is to prepare the key models from the Prescene information for your exam. So if I'm talking about particular issues and I say you could use Porter's 5 forces or a SWOT analysis, then go back to the Prescene and prepare your Porter's 5 forces or SWOT analysis. But remember to adapt your models when you receive the unseen information in your exam. Some new points may be raised that you will need to directly address in the exam, and so you must adapt your models accordingly. You should also make sure you sit as many mock exams that cover these issues. For example, Astranti creates mocks based on these key issues that you can use to practice. But you should also sit as many mocks as you can, since it's the best way to prepare for your exam. You get experience writing your answers in the correct style and under time constraints. You should also find any relevant real-life examples. So if you're talking about a particular issue, then go online and find an example that resembles what was happening to the Prescene company. How did this real-life company overcome a similar problem, or what kind of problems is it currently experiencing? And you can find these sorts of examples in our industry analysis. And in that analysis, we have prepared sample paragraphs that you can use to see what kind of style and how you should use your industry examples in the context of the exam. You should also learn typical key points, and this can be as simple as the advantages and disadvantages. This can be a really good jumping off point for evaluating particular points that may be raised in the unseen material. And finally, be prepared to use models to support your argument, to persuade the examiner that what you are saying is justified and makes strategic and practical sense for your Prescene company. With those out of the way, let's now look at our issues, starting with number 10, and it's going to be quite generically, but no less important, on ethics. So why have we chosen this? Well, to start with, ethics is one of the most commonly examined MCS topics. It appears in most MCS variants, and CIMA want to be seen as testing people on ethics, essentially. They want to make sure that they're testing you to make sure that you will make ethical decisions when you take up your career in accounting. As for this specific Prescene, well, it's important that stuff is kept confidential. Trayyner is dealing with a variety of clients, corporate clients at that, and especially when it comes to the bespoke courses where there's some consultation involved, it's important any information they gather from the executives is kept confidential and it's not openly shared with others, as that would be a breach of trust between Trayyner and their clients. And then there's also qualified trainers themselves. Trayyner has to make sure that the people they hire to actually deliver the education are properly educated and experienced and possibly qualified if necessary to actually give that training. As for some likely issues, well, there are a variety of things that might come up in the exam. Environment's a big and popular one, of course, sustainability and issues surrounding that. Company values is another, whether the company values are appropriate, how they're being upheld. Legal liabilities, well, that will include anything that pertains to, anything like copyright infringement, perhaps in the case of training providers. Government contracts, so we saw in the Prescene actually some reports about training providers working with parastatal and even government organisations, and even in the industry analysis of examples where perhaps training providers have actually broken these government contracts or seem to have not fulfilled them to the best of their ability. Then there's, of course, safety. You might think, well, where is the safety in training provision? Well, we know that Trayyner actually do health and safety training. It's important that whatever training is provided in those classes is actually appropriate and can be used without harming another person. The risk of reputation is a big one as well. Training providers live and die on their reputation. Without it, people aren't going to go with them because no one wants to be taught by someone who is unreliable. So reputation is absolutely crucial and something that can happen if the business is not considered to be ethically responsible. And sustainability in connection to environment. It's more important now, more than ever, that companies are seen as trying to be actively sustainable and not trying to harm the environment through their activities. Key points to raise then in the exam itself. So CIMA obviously wants you to be highly ethical, so you must take the moral high ground and take action from an ethical perspective. So if you see something that is considered unethical and you deem it unethical, you should take the impetus and actually raise it in the question if it's relevant to the question. And in these ethical situations, it's always recommended that, well, you make a recommendation. So you might provide some short-term solutions, so to deal with a specific issue. For example, where courses are held and it's distance from the client, this relates to the fact that Trayyner has to do a lot of traveling to these courses, often to a foreign country. And so if it can't stop the traveling entirely, maybe it can do the traveling a little bit closer to the client, maybe even in the client's host country, to avoid some unnecessary travel. In the long term, well, you might want to consider issues that avoid this sort of thing from happening again. And a long-term investment would be in technology that enable Trayyner to actually conduct these classes without actually needing to travel, namely being through virtual classrooms. As for the relevant theory you'll need to employ when doing this in the exam, well, CIMA's ethical principles are always a good place to start. Use the principles of integrity, confidentiality, professional behaviour, objectivity, and professional competence and due care where you can, and that will be a pretty good baseline for application of theory in the exam. And it's recommended that you always use this model, as CIMA want to make sure and see that you are capable of using it and knowing how to apply it. And a nice little phrase that you might want to consider using, especially in an ethics question, is to just say it is simply the right thing to do. Now, while I've got your attention at the end of this video, I'd like to make you aware of the other products that Astranti sell as part of the case study course. So the first of these is a series of study text and tuition videos, and these come in two flavours. You have our written study text if you prefer learning through reading, or you can watch our videos if you're more of a visual learner. Now, to start with, we have an exam technique study series, which breaks down how to succeed at various case study levels. We'll be looking at exam technique, writing style, and planning that you need to nail to be successful in your case study exams. And to accompany this, we also have a revision series dedicated to the theory side of things. This is because at the case study level, there is a large amount of theory you need to be capable of using in your case study exam. So what we've done here is we've taken the key areas of the theory from the 3 case study levels and condensed them into a series of chapters to help focus your revision. Moving away from the more generic products and onto the products that are specific to the case study Prescene, the first of these is the Prescene Analysis video series. First and foremost, this contains a series of videos where we break down the relevant Prescene at the appropriate level of the qualification, page by page. And throughout this video, we bring out all the key points that could be relevant for you in your exam, looking at various topics and things you might need to consider
when revising for the case study. And then to supplement the Prescene analysis, we also have two videos. We have the strategic analysis where we give a broad overview of what kind of strategy the Prescene company is using and where it might be going in the future. And then we also look at the top 10 issues that we think this Prescene company might be subject to and something that you may need to take into consideration when revising for the case study. We then provide an industry analysis document and accompanying video. CIMA like to see you demonstrate wider industry knowledge in your exam, and this is what this industry analysis does, as it gives you the wider industry knowledge you need in order to fulfill this requirement. Essentially what it is, it's a large document that we've compiled on all the relevant industry information that we have gathered so that you don't have to do the revision yourself. And then to accompany this, we of course have a video that goes over this document to pick out some of the key points for you if you'd prefer that. We also produce a number of mock exams for every sitting. We write 5 mock exams for the first exam sitting, and then we add 2 more supplementary mocks for the second exam sitting. We design these mocks around the specific issues relevant to the Prescene and make them as close to the real thing as you will see in the case study exam as possible. So these are a great way to practice your exam technique and test your knowledge of the Prescene company under timed conditions. And then to add value to this product, we also offer a marking and feedback service. So we have a range of highly skilled finance professionals working as freelance staff for us, and it is these staff that provide the marking and feedback service. So this is a great service to use in conjunction with our mock exams, as it gives you a great idea of how you're progressing in the areas you need to work on for your case study exam. And then if you're in need of extra exam practice, we also provide a more generic question pack product. So obviously there are only so many questions you could write about on a specific Prescene. So what this question pack is a series of generic questions on generic scenarios that we come up with at Astranti, whereby we look to test specific topics that come up regularly in the case study exam. So if there is a particular topic you are struggling with and we've only tested once in our mocks, and you'd like more practice on it, then these question packs will be a great product for you to turn to. The penultimate product on this list is a product for those of you who would like to get a full overriding picture in terms of your revision all at once, and these are our masterclasses. So these are our expert tutors who hold 2 masterclasses every exam sitting, and these essentially cover all key aspects that you're going to need to know for your relevant exams. So from particular theories to analyses of the Prescene, all the way through to tips and tricks you can use in your exam. And finally, such is the confidence we have in the quality of our product that if you do purchase a full course from us and you unfortunately do not pass your exam using our product, then we will offer what we call a pass guarantee. So if you did not pass your exam after purchasing our full course, then you will receive the materials for the next exam sitting free of charge. Okay, thank you very much for listening to that. I hope you find our products useful, and of course I would like to wish you the best of luck in your exam from everyone at Astranti.